Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this important event. The Center for Economic Development, Cleveland State University organized to create a conference, a platform, a website where all of us can connect to innovation, policy, and practice in Ohio. My name is Iryna Lendel, Director of the Center for Economic Development, and the center will guide you through this event that is organized on the web platform. And without further ado, let me turn the floor to the Interim Provost of Cleveland State University, Nigamanth Sridhar. Nigamanth?
Yep. Good morning. Thank you, Iryna, for that, and thank you all for being here. I learned about 5 minutes ago that there are actually a bunch of people sitting in a room together. Maybe I'll make my way over there later this morning to actually be part of some of these discussions and listen to them. My name is Nigamanth Sridhar, and I have the honor of serving as Interim Provost at Cleveland State. And I bring greetings and warm words of welcome to you on behalf of President Bloomberg and as well as the entire CSU community. This conference is exciting. You're going to have a really strong 2 days of discussing over the course of today and tomorrow topics that really sit at the cutting edge of where we as a community need to be headed. And CSU is super excited to be a strong partner in these discussions. As you've probably heard, and if you've not, we're in the midst of a pretty massive but quite intentional and thoughtful reorganization of our academic colleges. And some of that is actually motivated by some of the kinds of topics that you're going to be discussing over these next couple of days. We used to have 8 academic colleges, and as of a couple of weeks ago now, we now have 6. And it's a careful reorganization of how our academic enterprise is put together, and really thinking carefully about how to prepare the future talent and the future knowledge workforce for the next several decades to come. Right. So we now have one college that really has the task of preparing students with a broad core curriculum, and then 5 other colleges that prepare students in professional disciplines. I like to think about these as building, helping students build a robust pedestal upon which they can build statues based on their professional preparation. And we've got, if you let me keep going, and you shouldn't, because I can keep going for a long time about giving examples of where we're innovating on these new models for interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary talent development, because really that's the kind of talent and workforce that the world that you're all working towards in this conference is going to need, right? And I'll just give you a couple examples to kick us off here. You're going to hear tomorrow in one of the sessions from Dr. Nick Zingali talking about Society 5.0. This is a really exciting new interdisciplinary graduate certificate program that in the broadest terms explores the real connection between humans and technology. Right. I mean, the future of work is starting to look very, very different, and it's going to look even more different given the role that automation and artificial intelligence and other technologies are playing in a broad variety of work roles. What it means to be in a factory floor or in a work environment has changed. And so this certificate is really what we see as a starting point in a long academic endeavor in preparing what the future knowledge workforce looks like. Another example, and I'm incredibly thrilled by this, is a new initiative we just received last week, a new $2 million grant from the National Science Foundation from a program that's called the NSF Research Traineeship Program, which has the goal of supporting novel models of interdisciplinary research-based graduate education. And the words that NSF uses is with the aim of producing future scholars who can bring together innovative ideas from multiple disciplines to significantly advance what NSF calls convergent scholarly research. So NSF has this thing of going from multidisciplinary to interdisciplinary to transdisciplinary to convergent research, where they talk about really disciplines influencing how people think across boundaries. And that's really the nature of this project. Dr. Eric Scher is the PI on that project, and brings together 11 different disciplines across the university to truly rethink what doctoral education looks like in this kind of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary world. And we as a university are just incredibly proud to be part of this pretty small and elite national community of projects. So I won't bore you with many more of these right now, but I wish you the best as you spend the next 2 days getting into these really important conversations pertaining to the future of work and the future state of economic development. All I'll say to end here is welcome to CSU, welcome to the conference, and I'll make my way over there later this morning as well. Thank you so much. Back to you, Iryna.
Thank you, Nigamanth. So our next speakers represent two co-sponsors of this event. And I will turn the floor at this point to Susan Brehm, Regional Director of the Chicago office of the USCDA.
Built an important partnership over the past, oops, I'm having some.
You're fine.
Okay. Over the past 30 plus years. And what we have found is that Cleveland State's support for economic development districts and other practitioners shows how applied research really increases economic activity, including for many underserved populations. And that's a real focus for EDA. We are in a pandemic. We are still in a pandemic. There are disruptions across the economy that we are attempting to address. But in quote unquote normal times, we really are focused on distressed communities. So those communities that have higher unemployment rates than the national average or lower per capita income. And so, particularly, I think Iryna and her team have looked at how we can help those communities access new opportunities. And so I'll just go back and I guess introduce myself. My name is Susan Brehm. I'm the Regional Director of the U.S. Economic Development Administration Chicago Regional Office. And we serve the 6 Great Lakes states of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Our purpose as a federal agency is to lead the federal economic agenda by promoting innovation and competitiveness. And we meet that mission through strategic investments and partnerships that create the conditions for economic growth and better quality of life. We make public investments for the public good and work to catalyze economic growth where there is stagnation due to disinvestment in an important regional industry sector, such as we've seen with coal and timber, or where natural or other sudden disasters, such as a pandemic, disrupt the economy. Innovation is really critical to expanding the regional economy, as is accessing and being competitive in the global economy. We have again and again seen, and I'm sure Iryna has the research to support this, that traded industries bring more activity and more growth to a local economy. So things that move outside of the local economy tend to have a higher growth, create higher growth than those that are localized. So institutions of higher education are key partners in this work. Universities have substantial economic development assets, researchers, people, students who are coming up with great ideas, proof of concept facilities. All of these things support regional economic growth. And so I was thrilled when Iryna mentioned the conference focused on innovation in Ohio. And I'm very interested to learn more about the innovation districts that Jobs Ohio has launched, and to hear from all of you, universities, economic development districts, businesses, and other organizations working in the innovation and proof of concept space. If you, the critical stakeholders in the Cleveland region, can coalesce around this effort and work together, you can affect real change. About 10 years ago, EDA was tasked with standing up an Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And that department manages EDA's Build to Scale program. Under its capital challenge, EDA helps to increase access to capital in communities where risk capital is in short supply. And we do that by providing operational support for early stage investment funds, angel capital networks, or investor training programs. So the program doesn't actually provide funding, investment funding, but it's for the operational support to set something up. Through the Venture Challenge, EDA seeks to leverage regional competitive strengths to accelerate innovation and job creation through high growth technology entrepreneurship and foster inclusive access to proven entrepreneurship support models. And the most recent Build to Scale competition closed in June, but I really encourage this group to keep these programs on your radar. They have been annually funded. We are, of course, subject to the congressional and administrative budget. So we have seen a lot of support for these programs. So I'm hopeful that they will continue to be an important part of our portfolio. Thank you, Iryna, for inviting me today and for all of the work you do in Cleveland and across Ohio. You all will hear more from my colleague, Ellen Hines, tomorrow afternoon, and we would love to connect with anyone who wants to learn more about EDA's programs. Thank you again, Iryna. Thank you to all of you for the work that you're doing, and I very much look forward to learning more about the innovation districts and everything else that's going on in the Cleveland region. Thanks, Iryna. I'll turn it back to you now.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you. We definitely appreciate the strong support Economic Development Administrations was giving to the Center for all these years, to Cleveland State, to Ohio. And one of the goals of this conference is to showcase of Ohio innovation, especially for those cases that are developing and might need to seek support of various federal and state agencies. Our next presenter, representing another co-sponsor of this conference, I will turn the floor to Matt Waldo, the Senior Director of Research for Jobs Ohio. Matt?
Thanks, Iryna, for your support, not only in this event and to Cleveland State for you and your support over the years of Jobs Ohio. Just a little introduction of myself. So I've led the research division at Jobs Ohio since its founding in 2014, and just honored to be surrounded by this incredible group of colleagues at Jobs Ohio that we've built over these past years. And you'll learn more from them as we go through the event over the next couple of days. And I just wanted to use a little bit of a visual aid here to show you the timeline of development of some of the programs at Jobs Ohio as I talk over this. So I'm gonna share my screen here. There we go. So another kind of point of order, I know that this event obviously is being held at Cleveland State University and has a heavy, speaker contingent from the Cleveland region, which we call the Northeast Ohio region, or the Team NEO region as our regional partner in this corner of the state. But we have, 6 regional partners throughout the state. You can see that on the map here at the top left of this slide. And what we do every day is really highly dependent on the close partnership that we have with our regional partners throughout the state. And you'll hear from folks, in the university community, as well as these 6 partner some of these 6 partner organizations throughout the event this week. And at any rate, to give you a little bit more perspective on the history of our development at Jobs Ohio, we were founded in 2011 we're the first private economic development organization at the state level with a mission as broad as what we have. And so we received our key funding support in 2013. So I'm just kind of going across the top of the timeline here. That funding was derived from the sale of a bond to purchase a lease on the state liquor enterprise. So we, Jobs Ohio, spent about $1.4 billion to purchase a 25-year lease on that liquor enterprise, and that liquor enterprise supports the work that we do every day, as well as our regional partners. So we have both a financial relationship and a working relationship with each of those partners that you see here on the screen. And then, I'm not going to read through all of this, but we've received a number of accolades over the years, and then we had more of a transactional nature up until about 2018, when we started developing a 5-year strategic plan for what the next chapter for Ohio economic development might look like. And that included a lot of the strategies that you'll hear that are being executed by our team and our regional partners now. And so that strategy was developed and finalized in 2019 under the leadership of our current CEO, JP Nassif, who was appointed by Governor DeWine when the governor was elected. So speaking of leadership, Jobs Ohio has a board that's appointed by the governor, but is an independent organization. And so that board then governs the day-to-day operations of our organization. That 5-year plan that we finalized in 2019 was very ambitious. It included the development of multiple innovation districts. It included the development of a robust talent services program for our economic development clients. It included sort of speculative site development, preparing sites essentially and buildings for development so that they were development ready. And then also inclusion of underrepresented both populations and underrepresented communities. So Susan talked about distressed communities, and we certainly have a focus on that now as well. And then, we started to execute that plan in 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and we realized that we not only needed to continue to execute that strategic plan, but we needed to step up in ways that economic development organizations in Ohio had never been asked to do. And that included 10 new initiatives and $500 million of investment during the first year of the pandemic. A lot of that support went to shoring up loans to small businesses, even before the federal government stepped in. And we even stepped outside the box and purchased over 40 million units of personal protective equipment for small businesses so they could continue to operate. And then, we launched our DEI initiative in earnest in late 2020 and started to give out grants directly to underrepresented businesses. So minority and woman-owned businesses, and also small businesses in some of the most distressed communities in the state. And then here at the bottom, you can see some representative big transactions that we have led with our regional partners to create tens of thousands of jobs over the years. So just a few statistics there, of course, because I'm a statistics person. Jobs Ohio has successfully transacted more than 3,200 projects now with more than 2,000 companies. We have, through that, supported directly more than 240,000 new jobs to the state, and that does not include retained jobs. And so, there's some debate about whether economic development organizations should count all of the retained jobs. So I'll shy away from that too closely. But some other related statistics, we have supported more than $11 billion in new payroll through those new jobs, and more than 71 billion in new capital investment. So that leverage ratio, when you look at how much of that capital investment is spurred by incentives from Jobs Ohio, there's roughly a 70 to 1 relationship. We call that our leverage ratio. In other words, for every dollar in incentives that Jobs Ohio and our partners give out, about our client companies invest about $70. So what has been the result of that in the broader economy of all this activity at Jobs Ohio and among our regional partners? So before Jobs Ohio was created, now looking at the bottom left of the screen here, the image of the state of Ohio. Since 2011, when Jobs Ohio was founded, and we targeted, since our founding, we've targeted 10 industry sectors. Those sectors have grown nearly 16% in jobs, reversing nearly all the job losses. We had lost about 18% of the state's employment in those 10 sectors prior to the creation of Jobs Ohio. And we've gotten back nearly all those jobs now. So, what are third parties saying about this momentum that we have helped create in Ohio? We went in 2011, Ohio was ranked 41st best business climate by Chief Executive Magazine. And now it's ranked number 7 in the country for several years in a row. And you can see that we're winning not only third-party accolades, but we're actually winning in the economic development melee, if you will. We've now reached number 2 in the US 2 years in a row in terms of the volume of economic development projects that we have successfully transacted. Low cost of living, high labor productivity, strategic tax climate that's beneficial for some of the industries of the future, all adds up to the right business climate for our client companies and beyond. So with that, again, I want to thank not only Cleveland State and EDA for their involvement and sponsorship of the event, but also all the speakers that you'll hear from in the next couple of days. But also I want to recognize the conference committee, the people who work behind the scenes to help make this a reality. So that included Molly Schnoke, Jack Yoakum, Shannon Driscoll, all from, and Bob Martell, all from the Cleveland State staff. And then as well from Jobs Ohio, we had working behind the scenes Matthew Ellerbrock from my team, Haley Bach, who will moderate the Jobs Ohio innovation session, and many others from Jobs Ohio were involved as well. But I really appreciate all that's gone on behind the scenes as well as what you see in front of the camera. So thanks again to everyone, and look forward to a great event.
Thank you, Matthew. So with that, I will share my screen and present what we call a landscape of science and innovation policies that Shannon Driscoll and myself discover while looking across of the United States in the different states and in the federal policy. So this study meant to set agenda for this conference to see what other states are performing, how they are shaping their innovation policies, and how it lined up with the federal priorities and what we can learn from them for Ohio and what we can implement on the state and local level. So being academics, we of course look for some theory behind innovation, and we use the foundational definitions of innovation where broader definition of innovation is accepted as a new combinations of new existing knowledge, resources, equipment, other factors that help to develop new products, new processes, or new organizational methods that are novel and adding to economic activities. We specifically focusing on product and process innovation, where we understand that the product innovation, new improved materials, as well as new intangible services that are a matter for what is produced. But we're also looking at the process innovation for new ways of producing goods and services that it matters of how things are produced. Within the product innovation, we look at the examples how some policies can shape up product innovation. And as an example, you can look at the Illinois Capital Bill allocating $75 million for the creation of innovation spaces and $50 million to encourage commercialization of new technologies, tech transfer projects, developing R&D that all aim to lead to new product. Similarly, Indiana's Certified Technology Park program invests in local tax revenue in development of certified technology parks, which are created to attract and develop high-tech industries and encourage technology transfer. And this is just the 2 points of examples where across of various states, many programs aims to create innovation ecology, invest in spurring innovation that might lead to new product and process innovation, where example of the process innovation we see as a Michigan's Industry 4.0 accelerator that support adoption and provide of this program by providing funding, education, coaching, partnership opportunities to develop technology for manufacturers to implement that technology. Another point example could be the Smart Factory Institute in Tennessee that was created to train and equip manufacturing in industry. So with the process innovation, the Michigan is one example, and similarly, the Smart Factory Institute of Tennessee was created to train, equip manufacturing with Industry 4.0 and focuses on technology and innovation for smart manufacturing. So how the innovation policy supports all these initiatives, and how do we look and group and understand these policies to learn from the best examples? For our landscape and developing a typology for innovation across different states, we'll look at the Adler's concept of looking at innovation as some 3 buckets that can be classified as mission-oriented, those policies that respond to specific challenges that are on the political agenda or economic agenda of the regions. We look at the invention-oriented policies, those that concentrate on R&D and specific invention phases and leave the possible exploitation and diffusion of the invention to the market. And on the system-oriented, those policies that focus on a system level features such as the degree of interaction between different parts of the system. So for that, while looking across of different programmatic activities and budget of the states and their declared policies, we develop a typology of 4 buckets. Each of these buckets should list some relations to innovation, although sometimes it might look like it supports slightly different things. So our buckets include the business or startup support, and we specifically focused on the industries and policies that are attracting and supporting small business and startups, those that are mission-oriented, and specifically those that are encouraging those startups and businesses to operate in an innovative space. So this type of policies often declare and provide some tax incentives, seed capital, any other type of funding, and specifically mention the business and startups in innovation. Another bucket where we group the examples of science and technology policies is focused specifically on research and development. And we again think this type of policies could be classified more as a mission-driven policies. These policies often talk about creation of research labs, and they sometimes could be also classified as invention-oriented. Workforce policies, the most common policies that states adopt nowadays, and that's not a surprise in an environment where everybody experiencing a shortage of the workforce. This policy is oriented to the job creation and development of skilled workforce, and we consider them as system-oriented. And finally, a lot of states support general economic development functions, but again, we discern only those that focusing their economic development in any type of innovation. And we consider these policies as system-oriented, as they are focusing on systematic issues such as technology transfer and developing ecology for development of innovation in knowledge space part of the economy of the state, and diffusion of this invention through the companies, businesses, and startups. So for that, we developed little visuals where we looking at these 4 buckets, emphasizing that each of these 4 buckets should be innovation oriented. With that being said, another emphasis of this study was closer look at how these policies addressing local workforce, preparation of workforce, retention of employees, but also a development of skills and creating access for underprivileged population, for minority population to innovation space. Being an economist, we also couldn't avoid at looking at the supply and demand side of each of this bucket. And again, using a combination of innovation policy instruments is ideal and should include supply and demand side factors, according to many scientists who studied innovation. This mission, invention, and system-oriented categories that we also use as our driving device to develop our typology would each be analyzed from the supply and demand side policies. For the example, we included here and single example within each bucket. For example, supporting business and startup policy on the supply side, addressing this policy would be a tax incentive creation. And on the demand side, there would be providing specific SBR, STTR grant or matching grants that would aim at specific goals, specific product or specific program development around the technology or around a specific phase of innovation. In a science and technology invention-oriented bucket of policies, the supply side will provide the regulations on intellectual property, while the demand side is calling with incentives targeting advancements in STEM fields, for example. In the system-oriented economic development policies bucket, we look at the supply side as various tech transfer policies and the demand side as creation of innovation hub like Cleveland Innovation District. And within the workforce policies that we still consider as a system-oriented policies, the supply side would be STEM scholarship that Nigamanth mentioned this morning, where Cleveland State is intimately involved within the Cleveland Innovation District. And as a demand side, we'll look at the programs to create and retain high-wage, high-skilled jobs. We also ask ourselves a question: how do we judge whether the innovation policy is successful? And how do we look at these policies? Where do we evaluate them? Where do we look at their milestone? And we are back to basic of good theory on innovation, that any innovation process is a long-term perspective that requires really creating the ecology of innovation and creating like significant investment to develop and disperse this innovation within the region. And within every way of development innovation, there is a room for experimentation and competition. And we will hear a little bit more about that when we move to the some examples of Cleveland Innovation District and also some examples of the projects that are developing innovation in the state of Ohio. So we started with the federal level, where recently Economic Development Administration and all federal policies refocused on innovation as the top priority to move with development of the United States economy. So the Department of Commerce strategic plan publicized this year for the next 5-year perspective outlines some strategic objectives relevant to innovation. Those include accelerate and develop, commercialize and deploy critical and emerging technologies, promote accessible, strong and effective intellectual property rights to advance innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship, build sustainable, employer-driven career path to meet employers' needs and talent, and to connect Americans to quality jobs, advance entrepreneurship and high-growth small and medium-sized enterprises, and optimize workforce diversity, equity, and inclusion practices across every bucket of these priorities. Within the accelerate and develop, commercialize and deploy critical and emerging technologies, the key strategies include promotion of research, application, and standard for emerging technologies, enhancing efficiency, quality, and practical innovation. Technical standards development to ensure adoption and dissemination of standards that incorporate highest technical expertise, and strengthen the R&D ecosystem through technology transfer and commercialization. So through these priorities, we can see that universities moving back into the focal light of creating innovation, while also developing some standards and promoting tech transfer, will encourage diffusion of this innovation created at universities and other research institutions throughout the economy. Within the promoting accessible, strong, and effective intellectual property rights to advance innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, the key strategies would include on creating more equitable and affordable economy of innovation through improving access to the system, improvement of patent quality and processing timeline, and which has now a huge backlog of applications, reduction of trademark pendency through streamlining processing, and protection and enforcement of IP rights abroad through foreign and domestic partnerships. The building sustainable employer-driven career path to meet employers' needs for talent and connect Americans to high-quality jobs as key strategies include investment in new and existing training program, particularly those that do serve marginalized groups and underprivileged population, support for apprenticeships, other avenues to help businesses address challenges and develop a diverse and skilled workforce, produce and disseminate timely, clear data that will reflect the state of the US workforce. Advancing entrepreneurship and high growth small and medium-sized enterprises, focusing on providing fiscal support to entrepreneurs to help businesses form, and grow, promote inclusive entrepreneurial system by addressing barriers to entry that prevent the participation of historically underrepresented communities, and enable access to data, again, that we can timely assess the state of entrepreneurship, shape up our policies, and continue to support innovation. In the priority to optimize workforce diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, the key strategies include attract, recruit, hire, and retain talent and diverse employees, improve hiring processes and pipeline to reduce hiring timeline and vacancy backlogs, make the development's work environment more accessible, inclusive, and engaging. So while these priorities were very clearly stated on the federal level this year, the states were continuing to support innovation for quite a while. And we looked for the state announcements, state budgets, and their ongoing program within the current period of time. And as a due diligence, we looked as a first scan for all 50 states. And we should acknowledge that absolutely every state in some point, in some programs, in some of their policies, participate in developing innovation and promoting innovation policies. The most common policies emphasized across majority of states is focusing and relating to development of workforce, emphasizing workforce education and development of skills. Another most common policy across of the all 50 states was policies such as tax incentives to attract and grow innovative businesses and support startups and entrepreneurship. While we initially look at all 50 states, we try to narrow our focus on those states that Ohio is usually benchmarked to, and basically feeling itself in a little bit of competition for companies and for attracting workforce. And we'll look more precisely at the states, and we apply to looking through the states a lens of our framework that is based on 3 types of innovation policies and 4 buckets of policies that we were able to identify. So the first bucket is the policies that are focused on businesses and startups. And we specifically look not only at the declaration of those policies. We were really searching hard in the state budgets to see how these policies are supported by designating specific financial resources to promote these policies through very specific programmatic activities. So again, might be no surprise that access to capital is one of the challenges that facing that small business and startup facing the most often. And we acknowledge that many states focusing not only on supporting small businesses and startups at any field, but they want to promote with their financial support specifically those businesses that focuses on innovation policies or talking about developing new products. The small business innovation research and small business technology transfer policies were implemented and emphasized in Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, West Virginia, and those include grants, grant matching, and other seed capital to support small business innovation. For example, in Pennsylvania, the very famous Ben Franklin Technology Development Program developed specific program called the Ben Franklin Technology Development Authority Venture Investment Program that provides loans to venture capital funds. So among this science and technology policy bucket that is more invention oriented, we found many policies were focusing on tax credits and incentives as one avenue for invention-oriented policy that encourages innovation. For example, Illinois provides tax credits for R&D spending, and state of New York provides tax credits specifically for life science research. Grants and loans are also encouraging innovation through, for example, the Governor's University Research Initiative in Texas, providing funding to bring distinguished researchers to Texas University, which basically resembles the Eminent Scholar Program that was very famous in 70s and 80s in universities. An expectation of this specific university programs is to establish a cluster of research through inviting prominent scholars in their field that will build not only a solo research of those scholars, but build the whole school and develop the cluster of knowledge around the specific field. In the science, technology mission-oriented programs and policies, we look at those that concentrates on solving specific programs or meeting specific goals. And for those, we can classify the Kentucky program that has spent or pledged to spend 75 million to create a state-of-the-art agricultural research and development center that will address agricultural and food supply challenges. We also can look at the California that has invested over 800 billion in environmental research to meet clean energy goal. And this research positioning California as a leader in clean technologies and tackle climate changes while at the same time stimulating the economy. We also look at the workforce system-oriented policies. As I said, the workforce was specifically mentioned as a individual bucket on the state level funding and state level promotion in more than 37 states. Again, workforce policies focus on job creation and retention, but they specifically emphasize the development of the skilled workforce, and they often has a clause to specifically provide the career path for minority and underprivileged population. For example, the Florida 21-22 budget includes nearly 526 million in state and federal funding to support workforce education program to ensure that Florida students are prepared to fill high demand, high-wage jobs. This includes maintaining the governor's pathway to career opportunities grant program to establish or expand a pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship program for high school and college students. Another a prominent example of this type of the program is the Indiana Career Accelerator program that also provide financial assistance to Indiana workers looking to increase their education. This program specify the loan for individuals participating in creating job credential programs. The credential program focus on industries such as advanced manufacturing, transportation and logistics, IT and business services. And these industries are mentioned as priorities and those that specifically experiencing a severe shortage of workforce throughout Indiana. In the system-oriented policies that address broader economic development, we look through the policies that are developed and supported through government or quasi-government organization that support development of innovation ecosystem. So this would be organizations similar to Jobs Ohio and include the economic development partnerships of Alabama, California Association for Local Economic Development, Illinois State Science and Technology Coalition, and Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. These organizations sustain innovation through attracting, strengthening high-tech industries and accompanying workforce, supporting research and collaboration, and advocating for innovation policies. So throughout the conference, you will hear different examples how various federal programs and Jobs Ohio programs enabled examples of specific companies, specific organizations, and specific partnerships that address innovation in Ohio. Finally, the system-oriented economic development also supports the innovation ecosystem that provides resources, for example, like Kentucky Development Innovations Hub. These are regional clusters across the state to support high-tech, high-growth potential startups. These clusters bring together universities, industry entrepreneurs, business accelerator, incubation programs, and other various programs that support innovation and entrepreneurship in the innovation space. The New York NY STAR program is another example of such policy that enables ecosystem through supporting networking and non-financial capital. This program offers facilities, tools, and other resources to support new product development and foster university collaboration. So all these examples show us where we can learn from, where we can find the best examples of those who develop ecosystem and support specific mission-driven, product-driven, process-driven, or specific goal-driven innovation across other states. So in this conference today and tomorrow, we will talk about Cleveland Innovation District as one of the examples that addresses many of the goals that we look through all states that compete with Ohio and across all 50 states to address the current landscape of innovation. So I will stop sharing my screen at this point, and I will happy to answer any questions if you have, or proceed with our conference. So there is a question about whether I can talk, whether the Cleveland Innovation District is applying science and tech innovation strategy. I think I will defer to partners at the Cleveland Innovation District to talk about that themselves. This panel is later today, and I will talk about and participate in that panel and address it at that time.